From the Best Practices Show, where we take a look at the best business practices from the best dental practices all over the world. Crazy special week. We are out at the Seattle Study Club Symposium, the 25th anniversary, the Legacy Tour with the best clinicians in the world, and I got two of them right here, so you do not want to miss this. So do me a favor, hit the share button. We'll see you in a few seconds. Hey guys, welcome back to the Best Practices Show. We're out at the Seattle Study Club Symposium, the 25th Anniversary Legacy Tour in Palm Springs, California at the LaQuinta, and this has been a spectacular week. We are on day 3 with the world's best clinicians, and it's no different. I got two of them right here. So we are shooting this live. So if you have questions, add them to the feed. I got it right here. I'm so happy to dish a question to the masters, and we'll get the answers straight from you guys right away. But tell us a little bit. I know who you guys are. I've watched you guys grow and evolve as world influencers in dentistry. But for those of you that are watching, there's a lot of dental students that watch that may not know who you are. Tell us a little bit.
I'll go age before beauty. So, Jeff, go ahead.
I'm Jeff Rouse. I'm a prosthodontist in San Antonio.
That's it?
Seattle?
That's it?
I'm Gregg Kinzer. I'm a prosthodontist practice in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah, you guys are both on Spear faculty, Spear Education.
That's correct.
Out here and sharing with the world all your influence. Now, one of the things, there's so many questions and so many threads I'd love to cover with both of you, but one of the things you mentioned before we got started is there were 2 times in your career you were most productive, and they were key moments in your career. So tell us what those were.
So the Seattle Study Club Symposium here, the title is Legacy Tour. And I actually figured out in doing my presentation the 4 moments in time that were most important. One was a lecture that I heard John Coyce give back in 1995, and it imparted this desire to be better than what I was. 2013 Seattle Study Club program that I gave here, but the 2 people and the 2 real revolutions that happened in my career were in 1996 when Bill Robbins joined my practice, and 2 years ago when I went to Seattle and started going back and forth and joined Gregg. Mm-hmm. And the discussion we started having is that dentistry and dentists tend to get really isolated. So you learn, like I learned what I learned, and then I just did that. And I did it in my own little world, and I thought I was doing really well. But when you bring in new energy and you can bounce ideas daily off each other, or you can tell horror stories to each other so that you at least feel, the other person can actually empathize with you. I mean, lots of things happen at that point. And so we're trying to figure out how do you, if that's true, if you really ought to be practicing more as a group and that's not our model, how do you get that same energy? And it seems like Study Club is a good way of doing it.
Yeah. Now, Gregg, was it the same for you in your career and your evolution? Were there moments where you were like, wow?
He credits me for pretty much
yeah. Is that true? This is the moment in the program where I praise Jeff.
We're changing the show's title, too. It's all about Rouse.
There was another guy he practiced with for a while.
Yeah, and I echo the same sentiments. I think that when I came into practice, I came in with Frank. Uh-huh. And the interesting part was that he was out of the office quite a bit. So I remember distinctly that when he was there, I would have like pages of questions that I need to ask you this, I want to bounce ideas off. And you do grow more when you have the ability to share information, you have the ability to get another set of eyes. But then he kind of like phased out of practice a little bit, mainly focused more on teaching. And so that kind of left me in this abyss where you have to take it upon yourself to read journals and see what other people are doing, and that's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. So when Jeff came into the practice, all of a sudden the energy was back, and it always reminded me of being back in grad school where you have people that share the same passion. Yeah. And you have the ability to talk about what you're doing, what you've done, and what you should be doing. Mm-hmm. And this was around the time where we're really starting to bring in airway to our patients. And for me, it was really exciting that everything changed.
Right.
Dentistry, what I was doing now, what I'd learned up until then, completely changed. But it's fun. It makes dentistry more fun.
Yeah.
And because there are mainly single practitioner practices, I think Jeff's right that using a study club format enables you to get different viewpoints and different ideas and again, start to get the passion and grow as a clinician.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful point too, because I think oftentimes we talk about that, but we don't know how critical that is in the development of a young person who's a professional, because you have these moments where you're like, this is overwhelming, especially with all the information. Having a mentor, we always talk about mentors, and we mentioned it prior, you have to find mentors. Mentors don't say, I'm looking for somebody to mentor here. Would you agree? And you guys at particular points in your career, I need some help. And I think that's the key piece is you got to go find people, get into a club, get into an environment where you're like, I need you to help me. I didn't wait for you and I to become friends. I told you we were going to be friends, and you're like, well, I'll be the judge of that. I'm like, this guy's brilliant. I couldn't even get into your lectures. I remember one time at the ADA, it was standing room only. I go, I like this guy. And you were like, I don't know if I like you. But the point is that you got to reach, you have to find your own mentors, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to surround your people with the same passions, right?
Right.
And you also have to surround yourself with people who are willing to learn and share. And I think a lot of times what can happen in a study club format is that it's a one-person show.
Right.
And the challenge with that is you get one viewpoint and all of a sudden you have an authoritarian and everybody else is just listening. And I think the true study club format is everybody has a voice.
Right.
And you need to get engagement of everybody. And then all of a sudden the entire group grows and learns together.
Yeah.
And for people setting up those study clubs, they have to go into it with the right idea and the right mentality.
Right.
Because a lot of times study clubs are set up for the authoritarian or person that is looking to gain from it.
Right.
Gain referrals or some
do
personal benefit.
There are so many great dentists that want to be mentors out there to new dentists and leave a legacy with them.
Yeah.
And we just don't give them an opportunity either. And for example, whenever I'm around the residents at the school and they've had a speaker come in and they're on their phone or on their computer or standing in the back of the room during breaks, I physically take them to the front and say, you're not going to have this time again. You need to talk to this guy. Yeah. And you need to engage him. And you need to, because you may end up with a great friend that can teach you down the road. So it's imperative on the mentor to be open to sharing, but it's also the younger dentist that we're talking to. Right. You got to stand up and say, I want this.
Yeah. Expand on that thought. So, and I want both of you. When a young dentist comes up to you and says, "Hey, Greg, I want to, that was amazing. Where do I start?" You're so excited because you can see the spark in their eye. You're like, "I will help you, buddy. I really will." And oftentimes they don't think.
Yeah. The new associate up in Seattle, she came up to me in a lecture 7 years ago and had exactly that, and said, "I got to know more about what you're teaching," and it evolved into a friendship and a mentoring, and eventually to where she's now
joined the practice.
Taking over up there.
Right.
I think just to play off of what Jeff said, and this is something I tell my kids, that life's about experiences, right? And you need to be in the moment, and you need to get as much out of the moment. And people walking around with their phones, that they're living on their phone and not seeing what's around them. And as a dentist that's striving to do more and to do better, there's a lot of great minds out there, and all you have to do is pay attention and engage with them.
Yep.
Because most people are willing to share and help you. Now, it leads into your question of if somebody approaches you and says, "Hey, I love what you're saying. It really strikes with me, and I want to do something like that." The challenge is, how do you help that individual?
Right.
And because as a person, you only have so much time invested for you to be able to do what you need to do. And I think Jeff and I have a wonderful opportunity right now because we have a platform of which we can reach a lot of dentists. So through Spear Education, the number of dentists that we're able to reach and patients that we're able to help now because we have that ability to get more exposure is way better than you and I going out and just talking to a small little study club.
I think there are 10,000 that'll come through. So
in a year.
Yeah. So Gregg just won this phenomenal award for being an amazing teacher. And so everyone in that room would love to have him mentor them. But he obviously can't have that time. So that's why it's such a beautiful thing that there's an outlet for those that want him to be that person. Here's the other thing that's really, and I can't believe I'm actually going to say this, but I think this guy is the best technical dentist in the world right now. And I get to watch him all the time. And what I tell people is, Gregg doesn't show you his best cases on the screen. Gregg shows you his cases. Because they're all his best cases.
Yeah.
And the hands-on part of it is what I learned from him. So I bring up this airway stuff, but I'm sitting in the lab watching him work. I'm watching him work on patients, and I got significantly better over the last 2 years. I thought I was good.
Yeah.
I'm way better now than I was, but I'm still not as good as he is, which just fires, this fuels me to be more competitive.
Right.
Spear gives them an opportunity to actually get with world-class people like Gregg. I think you're doing a composite course in a couple days. Bob Winter is the other guy with hands that they're phenomenal. Yeah. You can sit in a room with those guys and physically do the dentistry with them like you would be practicing together in Seattle. Yeah. And that, I think, takes your learning to another level.
Yeah, and that's an important point, because there might be a young GP watching this saying, well, I'm a single practitioner. I don't have the opportunity. I mean, we're not saying you have to be in a partnership. You don't have to create a partnership. You have to find opportunities where you can put yourself in an arena, and by osmosis, like you did, you pick up so many things, right?
Yeah, and again, it's not just the physical education that you would get by being on site. I mean, they have the study clubs and they have the online, and everything is kind of geared towards making better clinicians. And there's some idea that what we teach is we teach everybody to do rehabs, right? I don't know where this ever came from, and it's actually the farthest thing from the truth. But we teach you to aspire to whatever level of dentistry you wish to, and if that means you want to help patients in a certain way, and with Jeff coming in and bringing the airway, I'll throw some kudos your way now. Jeff has not only had a huge influence on me, and everything that I look at now revolves around what I've learned directly from you, but you're changing dentistry right now. The whole paradigm has shifted. Has shifted. Yeah. And it will only grow and garner more attention as we go forward. Right. But it's really not only impactful for the way we treat patients, but for the outcome that the patients receive. I mean, it's a game changer.
Can we dig into that too? Because you and I have talked about this a lot. Forever, we've considered 4 pillars of diagnosis, but that's different now. This year, 35 years has been flipped on its head. And a lot of it, I mean, you're leading the charge in that, which I agree. I mean, we were talking about this before. I use the word sleep, and people are quick to correct me. It's airway. So just give us some perspective on what you've seen and how that's happened.
Actually have to. So I hate being nice to him.
Is it hard?
It's hard.
Is he does he like his little brother puts you in a headlock and does he mean you?
Little better looking brother? Is that, you left out another.
Okay. I always say, all the women say, "Oh, he's so cute," and I go, "Yeah, if you like, 13-year-old female volleyball player for figure." So, anyway, I have to give credit to. I had this idea, and obviously I'm passionate about the idea, and it was catching on. But the real change happened 2 years ago when we came up with a protocol on how to work through patients that made it simplified for people. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, the moment that Gregg and Bob Winter and Frank Spear all said, "I believe this," mm-hmm. it sort of gave it the stamp of approval that we needed for the masses to accept it.
Right.
Because Jeff Rouse isn't going to have any impact.
Right.
And you needed bigger names to jump on board. And John Coyce here at the deal said, you need to start listening to what Jeff Rouse is saying.
Right.
So my name isn't going to have any impact. The message will, but it's not until the those bigger players jumped on board and said it's okay,
right,
that
but,
it really took off.
Yeah, and don't you think all the dots are connected? Because even the younger restorative dentists are like, this makes so much sense now.
Yeah, it's what we thought we knew before. Now we actually have true answers for it.
Right.
But it's not occlusal based. There's a reason why patients look the way they do and they respond the way they do. So it's amazing that the answers now actually I think have much more validity.
Yeah.
And again, you don't discount yourself. You had a really tremendous voice. What Frank and John, these people have done is validated and actually given you an even bigger voice.
Yeah, and I think one of the real benefits of being here is you get to think better. You can come here and you hear from influencers and incredible world educators like you guys, and you go back and you sharpen your thinking because even you've changed your thinking. Now, can you just dive a little bit deeper on how you guys look at treatment planning completely different now? Because you mentioned there's 4, but if you do all 4 and you leave out the 5th, what good have you done?
Yeah, and once again, that was the evolution of our time together, is that we looked at aesthetics, function, structure, biology, and we always, as Gregg did today beautifully, went through how you would set up a treatment plan. He said you treatment plan that direction, but you treat the other direction. And so that foundation has been laid for years by Frank.
And then there's a new kid in town, right? The airway comes to town, and we sat around and we're like, all right, we see the validity, we see the importance of this, but we also have 30, 40 years of this treatment planning process working.
Right.
So do we have to deconstruct and redesign it? And finally what we had decided upon was that the airway piece actually needs to come before the generalized treatment planning. The process is still the same, but you need to understand the airway piece and how it might impact 2 things. 1, your treatment plan,
right,
and 2, your ability to converse with the patients.
Right.
And so it actually the evaluation comes before the treatment planning process, because it may alter where we decide to position teeth. It might alter the treatment plans.
Right.
But I think the biggest one that I've seen is my ability to talk to patients, where patients now aren't saying yes to going forward with dentistry because they want a better smile. They're saying yes because they want better health.
Right.
There's a whole other component. Smile and the occlusion are just another piece of that.
Right.
So it actually allows us to talk to patients much differently.
Yeah.
So Coachman yesterday was doing those digital mock-ups.
Yeah.
We needed a digital airway deal, which is essentially what our protocol does.
Yeah.
We let them preview how they could feel if they went through therapy to get their airway to that level of health.
Really?
And then, it's not digital, but I mean, it's an analog version, but we say, here, this is how you could feel. Do you want to feel that way? Then here's the dentistry, or here's the ENT surgery, or here's what needs
to be done to be able to support that.
Right. And let me ask both of you, too, because the brilliance of the timing of this information, you look at the information now and what we have, the digital age, all of it's coming together. I mean, there has never been a more exciting time to be a dentist right now because of what you now see, think, and have in front. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It opens the door for, not only do you have to do it with your hands, but you now have the ability to have CAD/CAM and have digital designs for things, so it can make you more efficient, it can make you more accurate. Right. But at the end of the day, we're still dentists, right? We still have to actually go to the patient's mouth and do something.
Right.
And the nice part about that protocol is the patient gets to experience it. Much like Christian's motivational mock-up, it's an airway mock-up, if you will, to show them what the validity would be if, in fact, we get to this point. Here's what we would feel. Here's how you would experience that.
Absolutely.
I never thought of it that way, though. It just came to me.
No,
we need an app.
No.
You do need an app.
We'll have one now. It'll be a digital airway. Right?
You heard it here first.
The two key words, right?
Yeah.
Digital and airway. Now just combine those two.
Well, let me piggyback on that because again, you guys are speaking all over the world. Tell us what we're going to see in the future as far as restorative dentistry, interdisciplinary. Like, what are some of the exciting things you're seeing, or trends you're seeing, and things that you see in the next year to 2 years?
Well, I mean, just as an example, this morning, I think it's interesting to hear more people talk about the importance of the airway and the evaluation and how we can treat towards that. It's not just about the teeth.
I mean, Vince Kokich was on stage paying tribute to his dad, and also showing the most sophisticated orthodontics that you can do based on making an airway better.
Yeah.
So he's come from this very entrenched traditional program and philosophy to, I got to make people healthy.
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, that's where I honestly, yes, we've got all this digital stuff. I get it. We got new ceramics and we're so much better at it. But I think the move into medicine and the fact that someday soon these meetings will include physicians as part of our interdisciplinary team. I think that's where it's going.
And it's never happened before, right? I mean, it's always been the dental field is the dental field, the medical field is the medical field, and there's not a lot of overlap between the two. And I agree that I think airway is the piece that actually brings those together.
Right.
Because it's not just about treating the teeth, treating the bite and the aesthetics.
Yeah.
It's bigger. It's a bigger picture.
Yeah, nutritionists and I mean, it goes beyond what we've been doing in the past, and it may be that bridge.
Yeah, and I'm seeing it grow almost exponentially. I mean, the people that are passionate about it are very passionate,
right?
And they're very loud, so they want to tell everybody.
Are you speaking specifically?
I'm looking at you. I'm speaking about him. But that's good. You need those individuals out there because that will envision more passion for others, and I think that it'll trickle down, and everybody will actually start to develop that same thought process, which is exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I won him over.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What would you say to a 32-year-old dentist watching this right now? Say, hey, look, I got one piece of advice for you, or two, something to consider for your future, because you have 3 full decades of practice in front of you. What would you say?
Yeah, I think the goal, I've always had the same goal: make yourself better than you were yesterday. Yeah. Right. And in order to do that, you have to push yourself. It takes energy, and you have to find the information, and you have to be able to. There's a lot of great dentists out there. There's a lot of great educators out there, but it's difficult to pick pieces up, right? To pick a piece up here and a piece up there. You need the cohesiveness of it. So find somebody, find an education facility. We're a little biased to Spear Education, but what it allows you to do is have all the pieces that they've put together for you, right, and help grow you to become proficiently better every day.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking about restorative dentists, you have to have a foundation. And so one of the beauties of being a prosthodontist is we were in that environment. We had to learn it. There wasn't a choice. Mm-hmm. The hardest part about being 32 and a restorative dentist is getting that foundation, because in order to get the foundation, you have to give of time and money and be away from your practice and trying to pay bills. You really have to have a vision of those next few decades. Right. If you're in that moment and just focused on that moment, you're always going to be in that moment. So you're going to have the old line about 1 year of experience, 32 years in length. Yep. And so you never really grow. You just continue to do what you do. We are biased towards Spear, but the whole idea that Frank had was lay a foundation where that person, if they go through the entire curriculum, essentially does a residency, a pros residency. And now they're practicing at a new level where then they could go off and get bits and pieces. And it makes sense because they've got this foundation, and dental school does not provide that. I mean, it doesn't matter where you went, it doesn't.
And I think what you have to figure out if you're that dentist is you need to figure out what you want to learn. What do you want to get out of it? Right. What's your goals? I mean, set your intention. So if your goal is to become more digitally proficient, then you find that area and then you immerse yourself in it so you can continue to grow. So I think everybody has to define for themselves what that looks
but
like.
I'm gonna jump in here.
Okay.
That's true, but I'm going to suggest the first thing you have to have is the ability to treatment plan.
Yeah, for sure.
You absolutely have to have an incredible foundation in treatment planning.
Right.
Then you can go wherever you want to go. Mm-hmm. If you don't understand how to treatment plan and how to see a patient, you will never. Just learning to be the best digital dentist will never get you the patients you really want to be treating.
Very true.
So. Yeah. I mean, people say all the time, what's the difference? What did you get out of a pros residency? Mm-hmm. You learn how to think. Yeah. Right? And we as dentists like to learn maybe a cookbook, a recipe on a technique, but that's not the process of how you treat patients. You need the treatment planning foundation.
Right.
And that incorporates airway, it incorporates aesthetics, it incorporates occlusion, but it's all in the planning process.
Yeah,
the doing is the technique.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is brilliant too, because even your best team members, they're the best thinkers.
Right.
They're not always the best. So thinking is so critical.
And a lot of it's conceptual.
Yeah.
It's the difficulty when you teach somebody a recipe, not patients don't know that there's a recipe that they need to follow.
Right.
So they don't fit into that mold.
Yeah.
If you know the concepts and you can apply the concepts, doesn't matter what the patient looks like. The concepts are going to walk you through the thought process.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world because I get to hang out with brilliant people like this. Now, younger people watching this, if they're like, who are these guys? If I'm going to follow you, find out more about you guys, where can I find more information about you, what you do? Tell us where we can find you.
The easiest way is to go to Spear. So. Yeah,
speareducation.com. It's not just Jeff and I. Sometimes we like to think it.
Yeah.
It's only us. Frank's there. There's some other people there that you might want to listen to. But
are they good?
There's some really solid people there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But that's a wonderful resource, and there's all sorts of, different avenues to learn.
I'm going to throw in, so speareducation.com, because you mumbled it.
Yeah.
But more importantly, this is a great time to be there, because we're bringing in Jim McKee, who's a fantastic general dentist from Chicago that looks at joints and occlusion, and so there's a brand new piece there. I've been there a year now. The coolest part is the faculty that are there, we all love to be there.
Really
together.
A cohesive group.
And so the energy out there is phenomenal right now. And it's because we all love being around each other. We all have the same passion for teaching. There's just, it's absolutely the time that people ought to come because it feels so good.
One of the things, this was Frank's inception of how he wanted to be able to help educate dentists. And one thing that he realized, and I think we all realized, that you can only be an expert in so many things.
Right.
And so we're very comfortable saying, all right, we see the importance of the airway, but that's not something that we're the expert in. So we found the guy. And now we're actually able to bring that and grow. And just same with joints, looking at joints, because joints are something that always gives everybody a little bit of anxiety because you really don't know so much.
Right.
Well, Jim McKee, wonderful addition for our faculty.
Absolutely.
He'll be starting this year with us, and it'll bring in another component. So, as Jeff said, the cohesiveness that we have as a faculty, what I see with that is that I see us actually even growing more because of that same idea. It's like we have a grad school. We're actually able to play off of each other, and all of a sudden, we're going to be able to do things that maybe we can't even envision right now.
Yeah. You got to find the right group because it changes everything. The right people change the game. So I appreciate you guys being on. We're going to have a lot more conversations like this. But, if you're wondering, these are the things that you got to be involved with. Again, I just feel like I'm one of the luckiest kids in the world. I get to hang out and listen by osmosis. And
I feel like that when I'm around Jeff.
He likes
how was that? Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Did I say it like he wanted me to?
Do you have reminders on your phone that you got to give him?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's my picture.
Every morning, alarm goes off.
That's awesome. I'm so grateful. Well, thank you guys for watching. And again, we're out here at the Seattle Athletic Club Symposium. You got to come. This is one of those events that's just got to be part of the staple. You get a chance to hang out with these guys, and you get the behind-the-scenes stuff, which is often the most fun. So thank you, gentlemen. Really appreciate what you do.
Lots of fun
for this great profession, and most importantly, your willingness to give back. That's what makes it so cool. So cool. And thank you guys for watching the Best Practice Show. If you enjoyed today, do us a huge favor. Just hit the share button, and we'll see you next time on the Best Practice Show. Keep watching.